Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Eggs, the podcast. Today's special guest is Sam Yeruva. He's the CEO and founder at PyCube. How are you, Sam? Welcome to the show.
Pretty good. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thrilled to death to have you. Well, let's, I guess, kind of start at the beginning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm Sam Yeruva. I go by Srikar. So I'm Srikar Yeruva. I go by Sam as well. That's the other way around. Now it's been a while. I'm an engineer by training, and I'm the CEO and founder of PyCube. This is my third company that I'm running. I started my first company when I was 23, 24. Was able to sell it to, lucky enough to actually grow it enough to sell it to Bain Capital. It was a technology-based service company. And then I got an idea about how we got some ideas around, hey, why don't we get into some product side of it, build some smart contracts using using blockchain technology. I was able to actually move that into sell it to a North Carolina based company before even we could actually envision the entire product. So now I'm running a third company, which is PyCube, which is completely in healthcare side of it, which is vertical based, very specific, not technology based, but vertical based. How do we solve the problems in healthcare? And that's the journey that I'm in right now.
I love that. Well, and it's interesting to hear about your trajectory too, as you've worked across these different companies, just thinking about how technology's moved. So your first company was in technology, then you got hot into blockchain and smart contracts. And then, as that sort of stepped out of the limelight, I think there's still a future for that stuff somewhere. But and then as you continue to move, now you're into AI and these other things. So it's interesting to hear about your trajectory because it's moving fast, just like this stuff. But one of the things that I noticed just sort of in hearing about your story and in doing a little bit of research on you is that you seem to be the kind of person that spots things that other people miss. And maybe you get onto a trend at the right time so that you can rise with it, or you understand an underlying technology, let's say. So it's not so much about trend, but you see a technology that is going to be good and you decide to chase after it. So as somebody who doesn't, or who spots problems that maybe not everybody sees, like what about your history, your training, your experience, makes that possible for you? Like, what is it in your background that makes it possible for you to spot these things as they're emerging?
Well, my background was I was a data center architect. My job was working in a boring data center, designing applications where after 9/11, there was some worry that the applications can't be in one place. So they created some regulation to move things. Application in New York has to be failing over in LA if there was a terrorist attack or some disaster or something of that sort. It was called distributed networks. That's what Amazon is doing right now. You need to have some fail-safe mechanism if something happens in one of the data centers and kind of a thing. That was my background. So obviously, I was so what I was taught is no single point of failure. I was taught technology is technology, but you don't look at what is the peak performance. The peak is only a spike. But what is a normal performance? What is a peak performance? And how do you go it? So my job was to see what are the new technologies around and how can we bring in. And but when I started getting into the business side of it, then I noticed technology doesn't sell, man. It's actually the use cases, right? What are you using it for? Are there any uses that a human being like Ryan or Sam can actually use it for? Are we solving real problems? So I stopped looking at technology back then. What I've learned in my newer life is follow the problems and apply technology where it's needed. Don't do it around. There are many entrepreneurs. I think some of your listeners and subscribers might actually come in and saying, hey, I have this new AI. What do I want to do? I don't put the cart in front of the horse, because no, you can't do anything with the AI unless you want to solve a particular problem. Go after the problem and then apply AI. That might actually give you some, reducing the cycle, the spinning wheel syndrome, I would call it. That might actually come down a little bit. So that's been there. So what is happening in the market? Normally, the problems that you find are how you're exposing yourself. Healthcare was something that I got exposed to through family. We all get exposed to healthcare. We all get exposed to utilities. You all get exposed to retail. You all get exposed. So I started looking at problems in my day-to-day life, and then that's how the ideas come out. And then you see, how do I solve this problem? But it's never, and then you have to respect the problem. it's not me, the smartest guy in the world, but there are people who must have tried it. Then you go back and research to see why are we here and why is this problem still exists, and then you start seeing what is the right way of dealing with this. And that's how I started looking at some problems. Many problems are not to be touched. Some problems are supposed to be touched, and understand the distinction and draw a line there. And that's when you start looking at what else can I do with my life. So that's how I started looking at things in my life.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, and I like the pivot into healthcare too. It's interesting because just at the first of this year, we moved our 25-year-old ad agency into a healthcare focused consultancy. And a big part of that for us too was personal journey. You know, in my case, I lost a father to Parkinson's a couple years ago, and I've got an aunt who's got stage 4 cancer now, and she's really struggling. And so I had an interest in trying to help those companies find success. So even though we've been in marketing and advertising most of our career, the work we're doing now is more consultative. It's how do we help these companies raise money and get across the finish line, right? How can we help them move? And a big part of that is driven by, man, you know, there's a few technologies that if it got there when I needed it for my dad, he could have maybe it wouldn't have solved his problem yet, but it would have given him more time and a better quality of life. And with my aunt, in her case, it was like, a late diagnosis. And so in her case, catching it earlier would have been a bigger deal. And so in those cases, or where we've talked to a lot of these doctors, those things really inspired me. And we were already doing work with med device people in our agency. So we decided to make that pivot too. So it was a personal kind of, I guess, response to these things happening in my life as I've gotten older, and, my family's getting older too, and we're starting to experience these problems. Really drove me into that line of work. So I know that you've got kind of a personal story around this too. Do you mind talking a little bit about your story and what sort of made it concrete for you that healthcare had problems and they needed to be solved?
Sure, and I think as humans, we all have problems with the health side of it. And when you're telling me that, it actually resonates with me because I lost my father. He had a paralysis attack, not as recent as yours. It's been 22, 23 years back, and he was an engineer in India. He was deputed at a particular town where he was supposed to take care of it, and he had a paralysis attack. And back in the day, India was it's still poor, but there were some facilities not available. He should have actually been administered a particular thing within 30 minutes or something, and which by the time he came to the big city and go to the right hospital, it was too late. That probably sat in my head. Then I started looking at hospitals, and when I went to my first hospital in America, because I didn't know anything about hospitals, right? You probably are trying to do whatever you can, and I was trying to do whatever I can. That's how it starts. And when I went, I remember this without naming names. I go to this big, very well known health system that you probably might actually shock. Oh my goodness, is that what is happening there? So I go to this place. They don't know my name. My name is Srikar, but I call myself Sam. I go to this lady, and that's when it's in New York area. And then there was Hurricane Sandy, if you remember. That's 10 years back.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of generators got stuck. A lot of people had to be moved on because the floods were so massive that patients had to be airlifted and stuff like that because generators were in the basement. When I went there and said, "Hey, I'm an engineer. Is there anything I can do?" Blah blah blah, and started working with them, and they said, "Hey, I have these problems. Can you help me with this?" I said, "I didn't expect this, but yeah, I'll help you out." So what they had is they had these credentialing mechanism where they have millions and thousands and millions of credentials of providers. It's stuck in a basement. They were worried that if the water comes, lucky they have survived, but when the water comes in, you have to keep them for compliance wise and for people wise. You need to keep them, and they were worried it's going to go away. They said, "Can you help us streamline?" Basically, what they were asking me to do is content creation, digitizing the entire credentialing mechanism, millions of things and whatnot. I said, "Okay, can you give me a sample?" I said, "Take this." They gave me a sample. Where I said, "Okay, fine. Do I have to sign something in a paperwork?" They said they sign it off on a paper. I said, "Sam, you took it. It's not my name. It's not my thing." So the HIPAA compliance mechanism, they were so desperate that they had to take care of it. I don't want to mention it, but the front part of the health system is so good that it looks like a five-star hotel. But when you go peel off the onion and go back, there were a lot of places they were having problems. I'm like, what the hell am I getting into? I worked with nurses, I worked with OR rooms, I worked with respiratory departments. I started seeing these basic problems. I started doing a solutioning there. I'll solve this problem for you. I solve this problem for you in respiratory department. Respiratory department, for example, was actually giving they thought they had a problem. I go to this director's office, and then he was filled with boxes. He didn't know how to. He thought he was using all of these, and he said, "At max, we have about 3 SKU numbers." When I started looking at it, they had about 25 SKU numbers that they're actually using. They didn't know. They didn't have proper mechanism of using technology and stuff. So we provided solutions for nurses, we provided solutions for respiratory, we noticed that these are common things. Doctors and people in healthcare take care of patients. They don't have this mechanism of how do I supply. Things have gotten a lot better right now. And we started learning about how are the operations running in healthcare and what is happening. And if you have so much chaos, imagine if your garage is so cluttered that you can't park your car, you don't know where to start. That was a thought I had in my head. It's like, dude, if you're not clean up your mess, how are you going to improve it? How do you think beyond what you have in your room? And if it's so cluttered and you're not able to take care, that goes beyond just inventory. It goes beyond how you take care of your patients and everything. So we started a journey of what else are the problems. I started mapping out all the issues in healthcare. We started working with bio devices. We started working with um, healthcare, health systems. We're working with pathology, working with blood transfusion. They have issues. We started solving the problem. Same technology, we are putting it on a platform. We call it a digital hospital, where irrespective of what your problem is, if it's ubiquitous enough, you're able to pick and choose. How do we give technology access, solution access to these hospitals? We notice that they're all smart people. It's just that they don't have a vendor who's solving these problems because it's too small for an Oracle to solve.
Yeah.
It's too small for a Microsoft to solve. So we're picking up these pieces, applying tech. We're just solving problems, then applying technology in the right way. Now, our digital hospital platform, we are hoping that we want to make it a nervous system of a healthcare hospital, health system. We are connecting life sciences to it. Once we connect that, it becomes a nervous system of healthcare, where it's just data. It's just data. Where is it things moving? What is happening? Hey, do we need this at right time? Can I cut costs here? Millions of dollars are wasted. So that's what we're actually bringing to bear to make it more efficient. So that's our journey has been, and it's been fun. We're meeting very smart, awesome people who don't see the other side of the beach, and they only are in the bubble. So we are trying to connect those pieces of the puzzle so they have better visibility into what's happening.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's been our experience too. We built out our sort of consultative offering. A lot of our stuff is around helping people raise and stuff like that. And so, but what we've discovered is like in 90% of the companies that come to us, like barely exaggerating, 86% of the companies that come to us, they all have the same problem. One in their public facing documents, the things they share for fundraising and stuff, 86% of our cohort anyway, were making claims that weren't backed up by their evidence. And it doesn't mean that the evidence isn't real. Like maybe the evidence is sitting in the doctor's head or the surgeon's head or whatever, but it's not being documented, right? So they're going out and they're trying to raise money on these incomplete stories and then losing the opportunity, right?
Yes.
And so they're dumb little problems like these. So to your point, I mean, you're working on bigger, maybe more serious problems, these infrastructure issues, or maybe they're a bigger problem to solve. But nonetheless, the thing that we're hitting is like a lot of what you're talking about, these things that are ubiquitous across companies. Like it almost doesn't matter who it is. They all have similar problems. And so it's really interesting. And it's funny just hearing you talk too, like, like I say, everything is through the frame of my family's experience. And in both cases, my dad's and my aunt's cases, they both live in small towns. And so their facilities are somewhat limited, maybe not as much as your father's case in India, for example, but nonetheless, small towns. I always joke it's the doctor/veterinary clinic. And so, so for my dad, he was dealing with Parkinson's, but he was going to a city of like 6,000 people to have the doctor look at him. And it's like, but in his case, he was 30 minutes from University of Oregon's health systems. So I'm like, why aren't you going to the world's best? You're 30 minutes up the road, but instead he was going to the doctor he knew and all that stuff. And, and in my opinion, it didn't work out that well. I think it could have gone better, but no, I don't know. Maybe they did everything, but it seems like there was better opportunities for him.
Yeah.
And same with my aunt's case. She's just going to a small clinic. There's about 1,800 people in town, so it's a small city, and they just don't have the same resources that bigger clinics or bigger systems do. And so it starts to make me wonder. But so that's where I think a system like what you're describing could really be useful. Is you probably have seen this, certainly, and we have in our business too, which is just all the red tape that keeps these things from getting through and getting into either FDA clearance or whatever it is their objective is. There's all these things in the way. And it's like, so, back to my dad's example, when he got sick, I started just doing all the research I could do on every single thing I could come up with. It was, what's the future of this tech and where are things on the edge? And, we did a lot of research, and so many of these things are just stuck at FDA. And, so it's really interesting. And I think that something like what you've got going on, the software solution, could maybe make it easier for these small companies or small hospital systems, things like that, in the example you used where they have boxes and boxes of files, or, don't even realize the number of SKUs they have available to them. How much is healthcare being affected negatively by the fact that they're behind, in that case, maybe literally boxes of files. But, how much is that negatively affecting outcomes because they're not getting access to the information they need when they need it, or systems aren't as smooth as they need to be, those sorts of things. So I think it's pretty important.
Agreed. And I think it's not just the boxes. That's how it started. But today, when I look at pathology, pathology area, one of the thing intrigued me was, did you know that the tumor samples that we actually, you said one of your cousins or the family members had some cancer and fourth stage cancer and stuff. When they're diagnosing them, they collect, you are under the knife, and then they're collecting the sample from you to diagnose it and do a biopsy, and those things are lost. And I worked with one of the children's hospital, and she said, how are you going to solve this problem? I have 4 kids biopsies which were stuck in the loading dock, and it took 10 days for me to reach the lab. Now it's wasted because I can't use that biopsy. And how are you going to solve this problem? Then I talked to the vice president of that hospital, and then he said, yeah, we keep losing, we keep losing kidneys, we keep losing liver sometimes, and, not losing, sometimes they do lose. He said, in 21st century, you still have this? Yes, they do have this problem because they do volume. See, imagine, we are growing old, Ryan. There are more tests that are coming up. The tests that we have today are not existent 3 decades back. There are more tests coming in. There are less people coming into healthcare to serve us. There are more and more people living more long time. The system is actually getting a lot of downward pressure from different areas. There is no more demand from people to do it. It is just technology is improving, but it's not keeping up, right? And adoption, because they're so busy, imagine if you're buying a new car, you and your wife would actually go out, spend some time, research and everything. If you don't have time to research and move out and follow the regulations to bring it in, you're never going to do it because the other side of the patient is dying. It's not the intent of them not to do it. The healthcare system is getting so bogged down so much. There is so much load, so much innovation coming in, but who's adopting it? Adoption is slow. Innovation is not slow. But if you don't adopt it, innovation dies, right?
Yeah.
How does an entrepreneur live in this area, right? So that's the reason we didn't go into the FDA side of it. We went into the operation side of it. We looked at common sense part of it. Any human being is going to look at, let's solve this problem from a basics of the business. How do I increase revenue? How do I cut your costs? Not going by how do I clear Parkinson's disease. We chose that route because I'm not a clinician by training. So I said I can't solve a clinician. The clinician solve the clinician thing, but it's a data. Ryan will be more empowered if he sees what is happening in his environment. My job is to give him data because these are very complex environments. Imagine some of the health systems have the GDP of smaller countries out in West Europe, and they're 25 billion, 40 billion dollar. And imagine running these things with that kind of a load and increasing every year. I was talking to one of the health systems which said we grew doubled in the last 10 years, and we're going to double in the next 10 years. Oh my goodness. That means the number of samples they're going to get, number of patients they're going to get, number of locations they're going to get, number of, how do you keep up with technology? So that's what we're actually trying to solve, because You have to have strategy is something that you take two steps back and think. Tactics are something you stay close to the fire and see what you can improvise. They are always in tactical mode. Strategy, we are trying to give them some buffer so they can think strategy and adopt certain pieces of the puzzle. That's the hope that we are actually giving in this health system area,
Yeah.
and say
Well, and I
together.
think you kind of just alluded to this, but I mean, that was kind of where I was going to go next, which is why do these smart organizations stay broken, right? I mean, these are the world's smartest people and the most, whatever. These are the most impressive folks and they're doing, life-saving work every day, but for some reason they're just terrible at running their own business. And my assumption would have been, antiquated systems and things like that, but it's probably at its root exactly what you described is there's no time to look at the new system because we're
Yeah,
busy.
great. That's exactly what we thought. It is not the new system. It's not that they don't have data. It's not that they don't have money. That does not mean that they're not smart people. All of them are true. What is the problem? They're too busy. How do we solve this problem? So that's how we started saying, all right, I can't provide a service because it's too expensive. Why don't we actually take that service, productize it, commoditize it, bring the cost down so that it's easy for them to adopt technology, so that they don't have to think twice. That's the thought process we are actually going in with from our that's what we learned in healthcare. If anyone is in healthcare from your subscribers perspective, I think understanding where you're coming from and what is the customer experience when they take you, right? Any new innovation that they're coming in, I would say I would first question who is it that is actually I'm who is my customer? Does he have the money? Or is he being granted some money? Then who's granting the money? Where do you want to go? The top guy always looks for solutions. The guy you are trying to, your customer is very important in this particular place, right? Everyone wants to have good innovation, good things, but it's frustrating to sell to the wrong person because seldom they have no political will. They're very smart people, but they don't have the political will or the business will to actually buy your product and test it out. You need to hit the right client or customer in B2B. B2B is tough. Healthcare is tough. Now, in order for do that, solve the problem of positioning and look at your right persona. I think you'll find some answers in that area, but stick to the bottom. I'm selling this solution. Stick to the bottom line is I'm selling the solution. How am I going to ROI is very important as well. Try it out. This is how it's going to improve your efficiency. Bottom line is try to help him day to day because he's busy today. Position it that way rather than positioning it so high that it's like a moon from somewhere else. I know it can do a lot of things, but I've learned the hard way. Don't go far away from where you stand. What his problems are today. It's hard in healthcare to go and sell a vision. You have to have a vision to build a product, but you have to sell what you can sell today. That's if you start thinking in those lines, you'll probably find a solution somewhere. Else it's a cycle that you keep on
Well, yeah.
spinning.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's, kind of the direction I was going to head next, which was this idea of building something that people didn't even know they needed.
Yeah.
Right. So in this case, you're going to these hospitals and you're looking at the problems through an operator's lens or through, technologist's lens. You've got these different views where they're busy, living in their little healthcare bubble. And so how do you convince people that they've got a problem if they don't even really realize they've got a problem? Or do these people, or in your experience, do they know there's an issue? There's just no time to deal with it.
It's a very hard, right? So innovation always, so if you are innovating something anyone else has innovated, then you are just a guy who's just coming up with a incremental innovation. If you're disrupting or coming up with new thing, then it's you have a Columbus problem. Did you know that when Columbus came and discovered America, it seems that the tribes who were on the beach could not even see the ships because their eyes were never trained to see the ships. So they couldn't see the ships when they came in. They're like, "Holy crap! What are these things?" So, so if you're selling a car in a bullock cart or a horse cart area, what is a car? What is a car? A car cannot be compared to a bullock cart or a horse cart because it has to be a different product. Then what are you solving the problem for? Because I already have a horse cart that is taking me from point A to point B. So if you're innovating a car in that area, you're disrupting, but how do you sell? That's the toughest problem. You have to convince the customer of the problem. So I go with the line. We have this thing, theory saying, seeing is believing. I have an entire team who works on that. Seeing is believing. Any product that you build in, the customer is not going to assume, right? They can't imagine what you're doing. So we said, we are going to demo it. So we said, unless we demo and the customer sees our product, they won't believe us. Once you demo it, trust me, my proof of concept, the way they think, accelerates about 20 times. Then, unless you pilot it, they won't trust it because now I've seen your demo, but is it going to work in my environment? That's another question that people have. Unless you pilot, it won't work. Because B2B, that's the biggest problem. Who are you? You're new, you're small. Typical small businesses are small, right? You're starting and innovating. How are you good fit for me? Oh, you're too small for me. That's the first question that you're getting. But if you have a good product, I'll try it. But how are you going to show it to me? That's where the problem starts. Seeing is believing. If you're able to show it in some way, shape, or form, then if you're able to demo it in some way, shape, or form, then I'm willing to take a risk because now you have taken away 75% of my questions that I have about you. It's not you. I like what you're doing, but I don't trust you. Those are the areas we try to. So our system is very modular enough that you can actually demo it. Whenever we meet them, we try to demo it. So my suggestion to you guys would be, or people who are listening to it, if there anyone struggling, move from an angle that no one believes things in the air, but once they see it, your chances get exposed or exponentially improve for the customer to start imagining, right? A human being has, that's a Columbus problem. First, the problem has to be, you have to discover the problem, make them believe there is a problem. Once they see what you're showing, trust me, the problem automatically, oh my goodness, we've been having so many problems. Till then, they're like, oh, I'm protecting my son, I'm protecting my baby. I'm not going to tell you about my, bad laundry and stuff like that. But once you see that, oh, all kinds of things come out. Oh, yes, we have been having this problem. Then I said, hey, how about I solve this problem for you? Let me actually demo it free of cost for 1 week. Quick. Okay. And when you see that, oh, now there is value, right? So my argument is seeing is believing, if that's a concept of one liner, if you want to use it. And that helps in any B2B. B2C, you can't do that. Business to consumer, you can't do that because that's a direct connection with your customer. But B2B, I think these kind of things in a red tape environment like these, I have seen improvement in the go to market, um, in improving your business model and everything of that sort.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense, especially in healthcare, just given that it's highly regulated. There's
Yep.
some risk involved to installing new systems or working with new vendors or whatever, And so I think a big part of what these, hospital systems and stuff are doing is like they've got to stave off whatever risk they can, right? Like, am I going to expose myself to something by introducing this new software plan or something? And so I think it makes a lot of sense that a demo or something like that could be really strong. Can you take us back to maybe some of the early, wins with the company where you finally got somebody to take a shot on you? It sounds like maybe demoing was your mode, but maybe it wasn't in those early days. I wonder if you talk about sort of that first opportunity or two where people actually did start adopting, because it seems like you might have a problem in your particular line of work where people often build, especially in software or application development, whatever, they build an MVP, they call it, the minimum viable product. And so they build these small things. But like, I don't know, you can test an app with some friends, or you can do whatever to try and verify that this thing's going to be good, or at least, try to understand that your software platform is going to work in the environment you think it is. But in your case, how do you break into the first, somebody had to take a shot on you. So how did that work out?
It's always the case, right? And who's that somebody? And somebody typically is not who you thought will be taking. I normally, you get into a business, you think that, oh, I'm going to sell it to Ryan, I'm going to sell it to Joe, I'm going to sell it to John, or three companies that I want to go and they won't buy it. Because it's normally my experience. This is not my first company, so obviously that's never the case. Those are never your first customer. Those are the people who give a shot to you and you learn a lot. So the Ryan, the Joe, and the John who you're talking to are your learning curves where you're actually learning a lot. What happens is, in the business model, that what I have learned is it's always, what is your product, what are you selling, how are you promoting it, and what are you selling it for, right? The four P's of marketing: the product, promotion, positioning, and what is the last one? Product promotion, positioning, and
Is it price? Is that the last one?
price. Yes,
Yeah.
pricing, right? So those are the four P's. Price is also very important, right? So when we started going in, we learned about the first one, the product. What are you selling? That was a very hard part. You know what you're selling, but that's not the perception of the customer. So customer experience is very important. Turn around, it's not what you are selling them. How is the customer perceiving them? So what are you selling? What is your product? What is it solving? What is the positioning? How are you positioning it? It's very important of positioning it. Tesla was positioned not as a car, but a software machine that actually can get updates all the time. And proactively, I bought my first Tesla because I heard a story saying, "Oh, if my brakes are failing, they could actually proactively monitor me and they can stop me." Oh, that's a very. It was not sold as a car; it was sold as a future machine that can save my life. How are you positioning your product? And then what are the pricing mechanisms? Pricing is very important as well. Which department, what are they assigned? Are they on the cost side? Are they on the revenue side? What is your product going to affect in this particular area? Is what is the biggest value that you can actually achieve? um, all these pieces of the puzzle we learn from different people. So Ryan taught us positioning, John taught us product, Smith taught us pricing, and all of this come. You have to go through iterations to do it, right? The first customer that you get, you probably miss a lot. Now, with all this knowledge, I would say to cut short, I would say time to value is very important, right? You can't do in today's world of AI when people are so not so patient, right? At 9 o'clock when you come in, I want ChatGPT probably goes and researches and gives to you by 9:1 if you ask a question. You can't say something will have to be tested for next 6 months to 9 months to 1 year, and then you figure out the value and whatnot. The time to value when you sold, and how long does it take for the customer to get the value? If you're able to cut down, that is always a plus point, right? Um, that once you show that I'm spending $100 on you, how fast can you actually implement it? So learn more from how can you cut down the time the customer can utilize my technology or my solution, and how fast can you see the value? Where we missed first time is we thought it's okay, let the customer do all the customer never does things. That means I'll sell my product and hope that customer runs it. No, it doesn't happen. Take control of the second one is take control. You will find a lot of customers who to cut cost might want to do all things. Example, you gave me the product, but I don't want you to come in and charge me more for implementation and everything of that sort. That's always the case. And being young, you will say, okay, that's okay. It never goes away. I mean, what happens is the customer is always going to be very busy. What happens is the value that they're going to uncover is going to be long far away, and that screws you up. Then we noticed, okay, this is not how we're going to do it. We are going to position it as completely contained. We are going to take care of everything. Either you automate everything and make it faster for the customer to see value. Pricing, you have to be flexible around pricing, part of it, amortize or something like that. So the business model has to encompass all these things. We've learned through John, the Joe, and the Ryan, who've taught us, and then started applying these things. And go to market is everything in this business. How are you going to market? What is the product you're selling? What is working? And how are you showing it? How quick can you sell? That only comes from you learn from every customer that you're going and touching, right? Every word that the customer tells you is important. And I normally categorize the customers in two buckets. One is customer knows everything. Second is customer doesn't know shit. I went into healthcare from a customer doesn't know shit market. That I use the Apple logic, right? The if Apple would come back when BlackBerry was famous, if he comes back and asks Ryan, "Hey, how can I improve your BlackBerry and give you a product?" You would have said, "Oh, maybe the keyboard should be a little bit bigger. I need a little bit smaller, thing and whatnot." He said, "Customer Ryan doesn't know shit. I'm going to create something which is touch screen," and I sold it, and now it's a big thing. So it's not demeaning anyone. It's just that how do you want to see it? Customer doesn't know these problems. What do you think I can give the customer, and show it to him? People will like it. It's just that you have to have that conviction to make sure you have to bucket them in the right areas.
Yeah. Well, and I guess then from your perspective, then what do you think has been more difficult in the sort of acceleration of PyCube? Is it building the technology itself and making sure that you guys are structurally sound and able to do the thing that you promise? Or is it that adoption step, getting people to actually change their mind and know they need it? Like where is the bigger struggle for you guys?
The product comes later on. Product. See, you build a product, it always improves. Adoption is a tougher piece. If I build a product and no one adopts it, what is the point of the product, right? And the product keeps improving. Adoption, the customer is, you need to keep working on why is the customer not adopting your product. Adoption, nonetheless, hands down, is my first step. The improvement in adoption automatically improves your product. but improving of product doesn't mean that it's going to improve my adoption. So I put go to market and adoption is the first number one step. And what can I more do in adoption? If you don't have any customers on your product, then put the product aside and see what is happening in the market. If you keep working on the product, when you're spending money on something that you believe in, but you don't have any John and a Ryan and a Smith who can adopt, you need that customer to give you feedback to improve this. Someone has to adopt it. It's very hard to make that. That is the clear idea about eye on the ball. You need to find a person. Once Ryan adopts, then understand why the hell did you adopt it? What is your problem? And there comes the problem. The problem is found. If you're able to understand the problem, then you'll improve your product based on the problem. Or else what you'll do is you'll keep on adding AI to it. I'll keep adding feature to it. Might be useless. It's basically what Ryan wants. Then you'll be more efficient in building your product. My hands down approach would be adoption would actually have downstream effect on your product, not the other way around.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And it's interesting, just, as we made this pivot to med device and starting to work in the healthcare space, we pivoted totally away from the kind of work that we used to do, right? I mean, we still will do some like agency style work for people, but but the thing we're leading with is this consultative offering. And I think that even myself, just in this being my first shot at doing this kind of business, have been caught up in that very cycle that you're talking about, which is continually iterating the product even without any adoption, right? So I mean, we build it and it seems great and it's, well, that's cool, but what if we did this and what if we did that? But we didn't actually have anybody tell us that they needed the next feature that we bolted on or anything like that. We just continue to build.
Yeah. If you have the resources, go for it. But typically you don't. And that's where you get stuck. And that's what I learned the hard way, that yes, there are many features. I could apply AI here and go with Claude here and then do something and whatnot, but that is not selling. What is selling? Sometimes it's the basic bare bones mechanism that actually the customer want. Everything else is bells and whistles. If you spend more money without knowing who's buying it, then you're spending the money in the wrong place, where I could have spent it in the right place, where I could have gotten adoption. The two people that you get, 2 or 3 customers that you get, have a lot more value than the feature that you're building today. That can be built later on as well. Again, when you have $1 and where do you need to spend, I would put it on adoption rather than actually features at this point.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, and I wanted to ask you too. So, I mean, just with AI in general, I think we're in a really weird environment right now. Obviously, you've explained your approach that sort of, you address the problem first and then apply the technology versus the other way around. But I think you've probably seen this yourself, but I certainly have. The era of just bolting AI onto everything, whether it's needed or not, and whether it's actually, even good or not. Sometimes they just bolt the AI on anyway. And it kind of, I think, has maybe cheapened the technology or the notion of AI to some people. Like it starts to read like a buzzword, sort of like when we were saying cloud computing all the time or whatever. Sort of starts to read like a buzzy word. So when you're trying to establish credibility for a company like PyCube, you are leveraging AI as a piece of your overall mix, but it's maybe not leading with AI. But as soon as you say AI to a doctor or a health system, or, whoever it is you're talking to, are you getting any, I guess, sort of resistance, or are people pushing back on the notion of AI? Is there trepidation around, oh, well, what are the robots going to do? Or are people okay with those kinds of technologies being built in at this stage?
It's a very good question. And that's a common question. I shouldn't say common question, a thoughtful question that people ask me in today's world, because that is very relevant at this point of time. I'll tell you a story. In my 10 years back, when I was in I told you I was a data center architect. Obviously, my idea would be to build something in data centers. In 2014, when I was reaching out to my customers, saying, hey, do you need any help in data centers, and trying to give them some products and stuff, I had to educate them about cloud. Right? 2015, they said, oh, I know about cloud, but tell me more. 2016, they said, I have a quote from cloud. Can you match it? In 3 years, they moved from I don't know what it is to, hey, can you match the cloud solution? So that was a very fast transformation. That's when my advisor told me, you are in a sinking boat, move away from it. Either adopt cloud or you get out. You can't be in the middle of the ram that is running that fast, or a drowning ship, whatever analogy you want to see. So I moved out of that and started looking for something else. So I am sensing same thing happened with, there are three things in any innovation that happens. One is a software innovation. Second is a hardware innovation. Then there is a use case innovation. So in laptops example, Microsoft came in. Then you have hardware, Dell and people, Intel, they started coming up with hardware innovation happening and whatnot. Then they came together and they started looking for platforms, use cases and stuff. So that kind of a three-pronged approach, three modules, if they come together, it's a $2 trillion industry. Today, laptops is a commodity. Cloud is a commodity. No one questions. I remember still when CIA took Amazon Web Services the first time, that gave the breathing room for everyone to say, okay, fine, I can use it as well. Today, AI is the same phase I'm sensing, right? It's like the computer, laptops, it's like the cloud, AI. We have a software which is growing faster. Hardware is keeping up with them. They're building data centers and hardware and GPUs and stuff. That innovation is happening as well. The third piece is use cases. That is where they're stuck at this point. So people who are looking for use cases, you're in the right spot because that is going to be there and this is here to stay. With that logic, I would argue, don't apply AI without understanding it. I say AI without PI, will get you knocked down. Artificial intelligence without practical intelligence, you will not be able to apply AI because AI depends on you to ask questions. I don't need an IQ person doing things right now. I need a CQ person. I don't need your IQ to be high alone. I need your curiosity quotient to be high because AI is smarter than you. You just have to ask the right question. It's like when a God comes to you and gives you a boon, what do you want? You could ask anything. It's just that do you have the smartness to ask him the right thing? That's AI, right? It can give you, it can let you, it can tell you about a lot of things, but can you dumb it down to ask what you want? So that's where I would say today when I go to the customers, we used to use AI. Today I don't. It's table stakes at this point. It's commoditized, right? Cloud is commoditized. Laptops are commoditized, right? AI is commoditized. That means the expectation is not what you're doing with AI. I'm already assuming you're doing AI. You're doing something with AI, right? You're going to use the technology and bring us in. So in my world, people have moved in the last, so 2 years back, that was not the case. Oh, you're using AI. What's happening with today? It's not, they're not even asking. They're not in. It's given. It's just that the AI governance is coming in. They're worried about certain places of the puzzle. So I told my guys, or we do not go in and talk about AI at all. It's a known thing. When we come to that spot of AI, we will figure out the governance part of it because they're also figuring things out. So in the initial pitch, I don't talk about AI because AI should be used, will be used, and has to be used because it is here to stay. Did you figure out your things and did we figure out our things to use AI properly in this product is the question that will happen in the fourth dating session between the client and a vendor. I'm not going to open it up in the first session about something that is irrelevant in the product discussion. So last year it was AI based thing. Today it comes back to problem and the product. You're hooking up the AI on the product. So talk to me about what is the problem you're solving and what is the solution you have. AI anyways is going to be there. It is only going to be a cherry on the top. So that's a thought process. If you're able to understand, if you're able to track me, that has changed in the customer side as well. AI is not selling by itself, but what are you selling and how are you connecting AI in the future? That has more wings than just selling. Only selling AI, you're a failure already because Claude is going to eat you up. Claude is going to eat you up. ChatGPT is going to eat you up. Don't base your products on AI. AI should be a cherry on the top rather than actually the product itself, in my view.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, like we don't go to car dealerships looking for cars anymore with power steering. You know,
Yeah,
it's a foregone conclusion. They all have power steering now, so we don't ask anymore. And so AI, I think, is gotten to that point as well. And I think that, especially now, especially to the non-sophisticated buyers, if you talk about AI, you start opening up questions about risk and my data and things like that. So you're actually creating more problems maybe than you had if you'd just gone in and talked about the problem you solved.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
I think that's an interesting point there. I also think that just the notion of using AI as a tool, I think, is really smart because I think there's a lot of folks who are trying to be wholly dependent on it. I mean, I even had somebody reaching out to me today about, oh, what is Claude? Should I use Claude? I was like, well, I don't know. What are you going to do with it? Well, I don't know, but everybody's saying Claude now, so I guess I need to get Claude. And I was like, no. This isn't how this is going to work. It's going to be a tool. And my wife teaches in a junior high, and we were making fun of some student submissions of hers because people had submitted this paper on Hamlet. And this was some time ago. This was early ChatGPT, but it had slipped in a paragraph or something that was modern times. And so it was like, but the kid didn't know Hamlet. He didn't read Hamlet. He just wrote the essay on Hamlet. And so, or had ChatGPT write it. And so he didn't realize that halfway through there was something that didn't have anything to do with Hamlet. It was just like a modern story that had something to do with it. And so all the way from then, and this been, like say a few years ago now, all the way from then, it was clear to me that AI is got to be seen as a tool. It's a thing that, or as an amplifier, maybe even. It's a thing that will make, smart people smarter. It is a thing that'll make efficient people more efficient, things like that. But you can't take somebody that's not thoughtful or not curious, to use your language, and then expect them to get great output out of AI. I mean, for me, AI has been a godsend in that I am a super idea guy. And back in the old days, like I'm just old enough to have lived before internet and post internet. And there was an era when if I wanted to be online, I had to build my own web page, right? I had to build and so I learned some HTML and some PHP and WordPress and all these things back then. And, but now, I've learned so much more over the years about, APIs and all this other stuff. And so now I can use these tools like Cursor and things like this and develop full-blown projects with, database integration and API calls and stuff. And I'm building all this stuff as like relatively a novice in that world. But if I was like a strong developer, I mean, my goodness, the things I could build, right? And like right now I don't even know the questions to ask. But even at my level of things, it's like, incredible. And, as things continue to get better too, I'll be able to, and I can kind of do this already, which is describe a feature and then have the system explain to me how we will create it. So even just in the last, year of using these platforms, it's become so much more robust that I'm able to accomplish things that for me, I used to would have had to hire a team or whatever to build out this idea and just pressure test it, but now I can build it all myself. And so, so the point is, I guess, again, just to reiterate what you said, is that, it's a tool made to help you, or in my case, as an amplifier, it made me more powerful because I had a baseline knowledge. And I think that's going to be the deal, as long as, and so whether it's as simple as what you described, which is curiosity, or an actual baseline in a thing, some trade you've worked in or some set of skills you've developed over the course of your career, if you've got those things and then you layer on AI, it can make you truly powerful and give you some really great options. If you don't have those things, it's pretty easy to start getting bad information or bad direction, et cetera, out of the AI. And it's, so it's kind of a double-edged sword.
You don't even know what to look for. And then AI without PI. So I've heard some of the cases where people went to bids on things that their company doesn't do, and they started bidding, and they lost them all. They lost even the existing existing project they have, because they went to they were a software company. They went to a mechanical company and started bidding for those using AI, because AI can give you. But surely and truly, they noticed that this company doesn't know anything, because it was too shallow. The depth at which you get into a mechanical architectural company and start giving details, it was shallow, and the guys who were actually making those bids or creating the RFPs proposals did not know enough to get into the details and put the right parameters around. And they felt, oh, these guys are too shallow, and now I'm worried about their existing contract. And that's, you have to be careful about putting it in the right place. AI without PI is, already, as I say, it's an extension of you. Don't use it to get into a newer area. First, research. I like what you said. First, go back and research and see what is needed, what's not. Don't get into complications of AI. AI can give you a lot of things, but don't use it as a spear. Use it as an amplifier. Spear should be you, your brain, your team, your expertise, and your things. It'll amplify you more in where you are. But if you start going into newer areas, you'll probably start navigating in the wrong way.
Yeah, that's where you start uncovering the things, the stuff that you didn't know that you didn't know. Right? Yeah, that's where you start to get those kind of errors. And then so you start building in a direction, but turns out you didn't ask this one key question early on. And so now everything's a mess. So anyway, so can we talk a little bit about just sort of you as a business leader? So in PyCube, this is your third organization. You mentioned you've bought and sold and all these different things. So there's a lot of directions you could go down. But I wondered if you just talk, at maybe a surface level about, what has changed about the way that you make decisions as a leader now in your third company versus maybe either your first company or maybe even earlier in this venture.
Um, it's hard to say, but things are very simple. My father told me not to use my credit cards when I was going to school because my uncle and my father they wanted me not to use my credit cards. They're only for emergency purposes. I didn't listen. Obviously, I learned my lesson from there. When I got my first company started, people told me you have to concentrate on how much money you have and what product you're building, blah blah blah. There are some suggestions. Obviously, being a hot-headed guy, I started being an entrepreneur. I did well, but I had to learn the hard way on certain things. Now I look back and started learning things, and I look back and said there are some fundamentals that you can't miss. Make sure your resources are properly spent. Don't overspend things than what is needed. That is fundamental. It doesn't matter what technology and what era we are living in. um, Understand your customers and what you're selling. Make sure you're providing value. That's fundamental, right? What has changed is application of technology, right? There are few times in life that new technologies come in that disrupt everything, and we are in that era at this point of time. It didn't happen last in the last 20 years. If you look at it, 30 years I would say. um, if you are old enough, you said you knew things before internet. I remember the DSL lines that we had, and the brick phones that we had, mobile phone. In the last 30 years, can you imagine? We had cell phone technology commoditized, laptops and computers commoditized, cloud computing commoditized, data center technology commoditized, and now we are in AI in less than last 30 years. This is more technology, and they're growing so far. Adoption is so much that everyone in the world is probably using them. Previously, it used to be one place at a time. Because where globalization is there, people have adopted. So now what has changed is it used to take time for technology to come in and people to adopt. So you would always find customers who would differ from that technology, and you would had to go in. Today that's not the case. Go to market, and idea to market has cut down so much that you have to know what is happening in the market, right? Fintech is also changed. The way people pay you has changed, right? The way you can actually raise money has changed, right? So there is a lot more value that has been added in the last 30 years. So what I have noticed is people who did business 20 years back and were successful might have to reinvent themselves today because the money availability is different. Because did you know that 98% of the investments in the market are going towards AI?
Oh, wow.
The 98%. I'm not even kidding, and that's my information. I'm getting 97 to 98%. That means a product that has AI capability, because they feel this technology is here to stay. So if product is not connected to AI or if it doesn't have anything to do with AI, then I might as well put money where the mouth is, right? The investor
Hmm.
thinks that way, right? So that was not the case, that everyone's mind works on one piece. The investors, the customers, the innovators, and everyone working on the same. This did not happen before. And that changes the way you train your employees. The culture changes. The kind of people you hire changes. Right? That has not happened to me previously. And it used to take a time. Right now, it's like you got this thing. Did you imagine last year the PwCs of the world, the Accentures of the world, the Oracles of the world, everyone started adopting Facebooks of the world. They said nothing doing. This is how we're going to do, and they disrupted their culture. Culture doesn't change that fast. I am seeing the market changing. Once these big companies are changing, they let go of some people. They come out, and second tier guys have to adopt it. There is no way, they have to survive. The third tier and the small business obviously starts with innovation. The culture changes faster than what I thought, and the kind of people you get with this, what is happening is, how do I keep my people not to use AI? Because what happens is, it's shallow answer. I have to. There's a fine line between training. It used to be a very hard thing to train your employees. Right now, I'm able to train them, but I have to put them in the scope of what they have to be trained in and how do we do it. This was not the problem I faced before with my teammates and stuff. because they feel they are right. The new kids that are coming, Gen Zs, and they don't have the time it takes, the depth that you and I could actually sit down and think through and read a book. They're just chatting it and moving around. That is a problem I'm facing today. It's not the technology. Technology adoption is so fast that the people that I'm hiring today, how do I scope them out and give them the right culture and depth of the PyCube of my company and make sure the products are quality driven? That is the problem that I'm facing, which I never saw before, which was a different story. It took me a long time to train them and put them. How do we
Mm-hmm.
do it? It's the other way around. Right now, I'm bringing them down saying, nope, stick to this. And that's where the problem I'm sensing. That's a change that I've seen in the market at this point
Yeah.
of time.
What do you think? Just one last thing here as we start to get to the end. I just want to talk quickly about, I guess, what does this look like for the future of entrepreneurship? I think one of the things that I've experienced in making this pivot into healthcare, and we used AI for some of our technologies that we were building and the frameworks that we built. We've used different tools over the many years in marketing and advertising to try and build frameworks and things that are proprietary and things that we can own. But the environment is changing so rapidly that I wonder for entrepreneurs in general, there used to be this kind of trajectory where you could start, with an idea and you start to build your company, and then you have several years to work through the business and grow and evolve and all that stuff. But, the way you're talking or the way it sounds is like, I mean, AI has moved so much in 18 months. What's it going to do in the next 18 months and so on? And these technologies are moving so fast. What does that mean for like the entrepreneurs build cycle? Like, do we actually have time to build companies before they're obsolete, I guess is what I'm getting to, which is, I mean, I mentioned even my struggle in trying, maybe I am spending too much time developing product, but it's like, by the time I get my product done, the AI models have changed. Everything's changed. All the platforms we've built have changed. The apps we've built have changed. Like, everything's moving. So it's like, how do you think that that's going to affect entrepreneurship in general? I mean, people can obviously do more as an individual operator than they've ever been able to. And so I just wonder how this is going to affect people who might build what I guess you would think of as like a traditional business.
Well, this is my suggestion to people when I start seeing. So when AI is going this fast and you don't know where it's going to be in the next 18 months, so that's a thing that goes in. So I believe in this thing called statics and variables, right? You don't want to be variable when the market is moving so fast. You have to be a static. If the market is static, then you have to be a variable. That way you are actually pivoting and you're in the scope. You start chasing AI, you're already dead because you don't know who's competing. That's a big, it's like getting into an ocean where it's very rough. Someone is going to gobble you up, or you're not going to swim as fast because you don't have the resources to get into the AI world. So my logic is, I whenever I have so many variables in the market, I look for a statics that are going in. Which product or which area is going to be stable? I'm going to apply this moving target there. Instead of putting AI as my basement, I'll put it as my elevator, right? So you apply technology in the right way, and you have to look at the market, zoom out. That is where strategy comes in, right? You zoom out and see where is things moving. Tell me, is the power generation going to change, Ryan? No. Power transmission going to change? No. Is the way people are going to, if you get a disease or something when you go to a hospital, is the injection or the medicine, the therapeutic they're going to give you going to change? It depends on the products. Those are all staying. The only pieces that are changing is the data movement. So start understanding the statics. For human mind, a lot of things are changing at this point, but there are statics out there. I think you pick a product which is static, apply the variables to improve that product static. Then I think that's if you start applying that analogy in different places. But if the market is stagnant, tomorrow if AI dies, or I am not saying it's going to die, but if it slows down or plateaus, then you'll have a lot of variables. Then you'll say AI is not moving fast and the products are moving fast. It depends on what. So I normally bet on statics and look at variables. Whichever is stable, that is your product.
Yeah, I
The
think it's a
more
nice approach. And you know, it's even something I've thought about, like in healthcare. I sort of view it, even though there's wild innovation and stuff in healthcare, there is sort of a static component to it, which is it moves slow. It's this giant, you know, mammoth of a thing that's got to move, and to get through regulatory and all this stuff. Like, there's a lot of process there. So it's like, even though things move fast, it also moves slow at the same time. So I think there's plenty of room to find expertise in those areas.
Yep. And that's my philosophy of looking at what is entrepreneurship going to come in. If it's moving too fast, don't touch it, because it's moving too fast and someone is going to gobble it. I had a friend of mine who was actually doing AI-based solutions, blah, 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 for the last 1-2 years. And I've been telling him, dude, you're going with the wind. It's good, but you don't have a product. There is no static. You don't have your base anchored somewhere. So you'll go with the wind and you'll fly away and you'll not be found. I'm worried that you'll have a lot of adoption, but you don't know what are they adopting and what is your product. And then you'll have positioning. In the marketing, you'll have a positioning problem because you're moving so fast, there is no positioning. And that is where you will have, if you miss that positioning piece, then you don't know what you're selling. And then you don't know who you are and what company you have. And that's where I would caution the entrepreneurs or people who are listening to you to understand that static and understand that stake. That stake is very important in the moving market today.
Well, I like it too, because it's almost like permission to slow down a little bit. Because I think for so many of us, the idea is that, you know, keep up with the Joneses, or, you know, oh, look at this new cool feature, this new cool thing. And so, you know, never stop building, always running. And, you know, but the point is that, you know, it's hard to catch a moving target.
Yes. That's very frustrating. I can imagine as an entrepreneur, you will pull your hair on that. You're like, what the hell am I doing? Where is it going? And the employees are frustrated because what are we building again? Oh, we just started this yesterday. And then again, cloud came up. Oh my goodness. These people how do we catch up with it? It's very tough to catch up with it. And it's very hard to run a company that way, especially when you're small and when you're using your own resources or you've raised some money and that's being moved. That can give you a heart attack.
Yeah, it's difficult to stay focused for sure. Well, Sam, we've come to the end of the hour. Why don't we just real quick, if you want to tell people where they can track you down online, if they want to reach out or get connected with you or PyCube or whatever, feel free to let us know.
Oh, definitely. If anyone is interested, I am active on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. And also we keep posting our things on the website, www.pycube.com. Send us a message. And if anyone is interested, we can definitely chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sam. This has been awesome. I really appreciate your insights. It's great.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. And thanks so much to everybody who tunes into the show this week and every week. And we'll see you guys next time.